Hi, it's Karen from Celtic Healing Corner again. Welcome back, really good to see you. I hope you've enjoyed the video so far, and I hope you're going to learn a lot more from this one. So just a quick recap. Last time, the big message that I gave you was to try to trust your instinct, to know what crystals are, to know how they vibrate, and that you vibrate, and that you are attracting them, they are attracting you. So trust that you're being attracted to the right crystal at the right time for the right reason in your life. We also talked a little bit about chakras and how you could use the colour of crystals as a very simple way to choose them to work with your chakras. We'll talk a little bit more today about that, but I won't go into the depth that I did last time because it's already there for you and you're welcome to go back and have another look at that. So today we're going to talk about how could you use crystals. So we've talked about what they are, how they work. Now we're going to look about how we can use them. What are some of the purposes we can use them for? And to be honest, it's like how long is a piece of string? Because there's so many different ways. And it's really about personal preference and personal need. But unfortunately, as a beginner, I appreciate that it can be very confusing about, well, you might not even know what your needs are, and you might not even know what your preferences are because you don't know what's available. So today I'm just going to give you a little taster of some different ways, some different approaches that you could take to finding out how do you want to use your crystals, because that will affect your choice. And we're going to be talking about how to choose them in later videos. But at this stage, you really kind of need to think about, well, what do you want to use them for? Have you got any ideas? And I'll give you some ideas that you can try out and find out what resonates with you. There is no right or wrong way. It's purely your personal choice and preference. Just remember, what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. And it really is about being an individual and your individual choices. So you're probably a bit unsure about how would you initially even start. So some ideas might be what we've already talked about, using the chakras and the colours of the chakras. Or you could use those key principles that I gave you in the last video of what the chakras actually do. And once you know a little bit more about some of these crystals, working out how those crystals' properties react with those particular principles of the chakra. For instance, we talked a little bit in the last video about rose quartz, that for the heart chakra, it's a beautiful healing crystal, and yet it's not green. And we said if we're choosing a colour, the heart chakra is green, so you'd want a green crystal. So you're thinking, well, why would you say use that? That's because it resonates with the vibration of the planet Venus. And Venus is all about love, and it's all about self-love and compassion, and so it's very much about the heart chakra. So it doesn't necessarily have to be colour. It can be the properties of the crystal and the way it resonates related to the purpose of those chakras and the principles of those chakras. So the base chakra is very much about the red grounding colour and being connected to the earth. The sacral chakra was the orange colour, that it's very much about your sexuality and your feelings and your relationships. Your solar plexus was the yellow colour, that was about your self-empowerment, your self-esteem, your self-confidence, your call for action. The heart chakra, we've already said, is green and is about love and compassion, love for yourself, love for others. The throat was blue, and it was about your true communication, your honest communication about your true self. And the brow chakra, or third eye chakra, we said was indigo, and that is about your connection to your intuition, to your instinct, to your gut feeling, to spirit. It's where clairvoyance and psychics connect. And your crown chakra, we said, was violet, and that was about connection to all that is, connection to your higher purpose and your higher self. Once you know what those principles are, you can either do it by the colour, like we said, as a very simple basic introduction, or you could look at the properties of the crystals and the frequencies they resonate and how they fit in with that chakra. So for instance, if you were feeling in your solar plexus, which is yellow, that you were a bit unsure, a bit insecure, lacking self-confidence, you might need some courage. And so you would pick a courage stone, and something like azurite here or aquamarine, very good courage stones. They're not yellow, but they resonate with the frequency that would help that. So look at the chakra principles, what it is you think you might need, and then find the stones that meet those kind of properties to do a match that way. Another way is to look at birthstones, and this can be as simple as the month you're born, going along to a jewellery shop and saying, I was born in March, what's my birthstone? And they would say, oh, that's aquamarine. And so you get yourself a piece of aquamarine. You might choose the raw crystal, or you might choose a piece of jewellery with it on. You might want to go a little bit further into it. That might not be enough for you. You might think, no, I want more than that. So you might want to look a bit further into it, and you might look into your zodiac sign. Most people have an idea of what zodiac sign they are. If not, it's really easy to check it out on the internet with your date of birth, because the zodiac, the Western zodiac and the Asian zodiac, do not follow the months. They go across months, and in fact the Asian zodiac also goes across years, because they go by the Chinese calendar. But just be aware that there are differences. So depending on, again, which bent you take, if chakras are not your thing, you might want to go down the zodiac line, and it might be either the Western line or the Asian line, whatever floats your boat. There is no right or wrong. There's whatever is right for you. So with those sorts of investigations, you will discover other stones. You will discover other ruling planets for those particular signs. The other way to do it is to look at, because at the time of your birth, it's affected by not just which constellation is in the sun at that time, because that's what dictates your zodiac sign in Western culture, but all of the other planets, of course, are still there. So that might be your ruling planet, but what other planets and what position are they in when you're born can also influence things. Can also be influenced by whether you were born in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, or whether you're living in the same hemisphere that you were born in, or the other hemisphere. So all of these things can be interplayed, and it can get very confusing. But you might want to look at just the planets themselves. All of the planets have stones and crystals associated with them as well, and resonate with various energies, like we touched on Venus, but there's also other stones that go into that Venus energy, not just rose quartz. And you may decide that in your life there are certain times in your life where you need certain things. For instance, if you're about to start a new job, or you're about to start a new career path, you might decide that you need some assertive, aggressive kind of energy. You need some passion, you need some drive. So you might be looking for something that resonates with Mars energy. And Mars is all about the colour red. So you might be looking for, some garnet, or you might be looking for a ruby, or you might be looking for any kind of orangey, yellow, anything to do with that kind of power stone that suits the Mars energy. And you might be carrying that for a while. It really depends. It's just so huge. The topic of how you're going to use them is really huge. And so really I would encourage you to go inside yourself and try to discover what it is you want this for. Why do you feel you're being drawn to having a crystal in your life? And if you can't figure it out, don't worry. Go back to that very first lesson, that very first video that says just trust. You don't even have to know what you want it for. But if you're anything like me, you probably do want to know what you want it for. But it honestly doesn't matter, because the crystal will work with you anyway. So there is no right or wrong. Just go with what feels right. So today I wanted to show you one way that you could look at approaching crystals in a little bit more detail. I've set up a grid here, and it's like a compass, like a medicine wheel. It's directional, and it's also with the elements. Now, we're dealing with 5 elements here. Most people are aware on the planet that we have, earth, wind, fire and water. It's pretty obvious. Those are the elements of our planet Earth. But when you start to work with crystals and energy and metaphysical things, you discover that there is a fifth element, the element of ether, the element that connects us to spirit and all that is, connects us to the universal life force, whatever you want to call that energy that we talked about in the very first video. If you are in an Asian culture, or if that's what resonates with you, you would have slightly different elements. So you would still have the fire and the earth and the water, but you would have metal and wood. Now, I'm not a practitioner that follows that, so I'm not going to show you that today. But you can certainly Google it, and obviously there are people who could help you with that if that's what you wanted to follow. In my case, I'm just going to look at the Western side of things, and I'm going to look at the compass points, the 4 directions, and the 4 elements, and then go into the 5th element, which is ether. Now, I mentioned earlier that it depends on where you're born, how some of these things resonate. Now, I was born in Scotland, which is a northern hemisphere. So in the north, in the northern hemisphere, the north is earth, and the south is fire. And that's what I follow, and that's what I've set up here. However, I'm living in Australia, and Australia is the southern hemisphere. So if you go and Google, 4 directions in the southern hemisphere, they're going to tell you, no, this is wrong. To be in the north should be the fire, and to be in the south should be the earth. And this is a primary lesson in what resonates with you, and how it doesn't matter. It's what is right for you. So by all means, if you wish to follow this and you want to reverse it, that's perfectly fine. That's what's resonating with you. But for me personally, this is my true north. My true north is earth. So therefore I have my earth crystals set up in the north. So you can see that they're mostly dark crystals, blacks, browns, few dark greens, few metallics. Those are my earth crystals, and that's how pretty much you can tell that a crystal resonates with earth. Whether you have it in the north or the south doesn't matter, that is still an earth crystal. And then as I move around the medicine wheel or around the compass, I come to my air crystals, and air crystals are lilacs and purples and pinks and whites and blues. So you can see here I've got some amethyst and moonstone, some labradorite and some lapis and some rainbow moonstone there. And then we come around to what is my south, which is fire. And this is my fire crystals. So again, we've got the reds, we've got the yellows, we've got the oranges. So we've got carnelian, we've got sunstone, we've got citrine, we've got golden calcite, we've got ruby and garnet. So all of those red, orange, yellowy coloured stones are your fire stones. And for me, they resonate with the south. And then we come further round to our water crystals, and you can see there the aquas, the blues, the greens, a little bit of pink, because water is all about emotion and love, and we've already said that that's resonating with the vibration of Venus. But generally your stones that are blue and green and aqua are going to be your water stones, and they're easy to remember because that's the colour of water. And in the centre I've got my clear, white, pure type crystals. So I've got my Lemurian crystals, my clear quartz crystals, my selenite, my apophyllite, and I've got some master crystals in here as well. I've got some Isis crystals, I've got a Lightberry crystal, I've got a window crystal, I've got a shamanic stone, but they're all clear, transparent type crystals. And that's my ether crystal, because that's connecting directly up to spirit, the universal energy. So that's another way that you might decide to use your crystals. And you might only decide to focus on one direction, the direction of the energy that you feel you need in your life. So air is all about intellect, it's all about thought, it's all about logic. Water is all about emotion, it's all about love. It's all about your feelings and connecting through the heart. Earth is all about reality, and being grounded and being in the real world. And fire is the passion. Fire is the drive, the impulse for action. So you could go with either the element or the direction and work from there to choose your crystals for whatever it is you might need in your life at that time. So pretty much that's given you a bit of an idea to try. As I said, there is no right and wrong. Find what works for you, but give it a go and see how you go. A couple of different ways that you can use these crystals once you have them is not just by, having them around you. You can actually use them to meditate, so you can hold them, you can have them around you as you meditate. You can form a crystal grid for manifestation, for protection, for healing. That will be covered in another one of the DVDs in this series. You can use them just for relaxing and creating a tranquil space to live in. You can carry them on you. You can put them in your pocket. You can put them in your handbag. I often shove mine down my bra and just carry it with you so it's next to you. And you're carrying it around all day. It goes where you go. You can try a body layout. It's like a crystal grid where you are the actual crystal in the middle and you've got the crystals all around you in a grid pattern. You can simply liven up your home decor, or you might be into feng shui and having things in certain places of your home that create the energetic space for you that's harmonious. You can even have a bit of a spa treatment and have it in your bath or in your bathroom. You can infuse your cosmetic products with crystal energy by having the containers next to the crystals. You can, with some crystals, you can put them into your drinking water. You can put them near your food. There's a whole list of ways that you can use them. You just have to work out what feels right for you. So I hope that's given you something to think about. The next video in this series will help you to recognize some of the more common crystals, because I've kind of told you an awful lot of information and your head might be reeling a little bit. So the next video I'm just going to concentrate on the very most common and most useful crystals that you may want to start with. So I look forward to catching up with you again. Thanks for joining me.